If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year, I'll cut my pinky off.
All right.
First thing I really want to touch on was from this weekend. So people who listen to last week's full episode on Spotify, sorry for the being repetitive, but I said last week the Chiefs are this year's version of last year's Philadelphia Eagles team. Super Bowl hangover hits. They obviously are coming off of a win, a little bit different, but you look around at the talent that the Chiefs have, and I was like, for the rest of the season, I'm going to start betting against the fact that they have bad tackles. The Kareem Hunt's their starting running back, that Juju Smith-Schuster and DeAndre Hopkins are their two wide receivers who have been pretty much irrelevant for the last 3 years.
Besides like a week here and there where
Yeah,
they
besides a week here,
have a throwback.
but putting together a complete season for them at this point, I think is fair to say it's probably not going to happen. And then the cherry on the top, and which is why I wanted to rehash this out with you, is somebody texted me during the Chiefs game and said, "Man, Mahomes is putting on a masterclass." Mahomes went 23.
You need to start
33.
blocking these people's number because this is
Mahomes
crazy
went,
how often.
Mahomes went 23 for 33, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 0 rushing yards, and they lost the game. Is the bar at this point so low for Patrick Mahomes that if he just ends up throwing a multi-touchdown game that people are like, he's the best quarterback in the NFL? Said it since probably 4 weeks into the season. Mahomes is not playing at an elite level the way that he's been playing the last few years. And that could be a talent disparity. It could be a lot of things. He has one of the lowest ADOTs in the entire NFL. He just doesn't seem to be able to string together these big stat games and do the things that we know Patrick Mahomes to do. But it seems like everybody is so in love with the idea that Patrick Mahomes is somehow already the GOAT that they are just pretty much throwing out everything when they watch him play on a week-to-week basis. And I just don't understand why that is. I'm still going to stand on my statement from last week. The Chiefs are an auto sell for this back half of the football season. They're just not a good football team. This should have been the second game that they dropped in a row. They should have lost that Broncos game. They got lucky on the field goal block. They finally lost to this Bills team, which I said I thought that they were going to lose that on the road in Buffalo. And then if you look at their schedule throughout the course of the season, I mean, they've gotten bailed out multiple times. And I just think that this Chiefs team, their 9-1 record, doesn't actually tell the story of who they are as a team in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Going back to like kind of where you started with like the stat line of Mahomes, I just think the bar is so low for quarterbacks in the NFL at this point. I mean, if somebody's saying that Mahomes had a master class and read me off that stat line, I would ask if they even watched the game because that's not what at all happened if you actually sat down and watched this football game. He was not great. He hasn't been great all season. 2 interceptions. Now, I understand the ones at the end of the game, you got to make a play, whatever. Regardless, first one came, what was it? Very first drive. And the Buffalo Bills were just getting pressure on him, what felt like pretty consistently throughout this football game. Their tackles are finally starting to get exposed, and their offense just isn't that good. I mean, this team has relied on defense the entire year. You said it already that they aren't going to be able to lean on Harrison Butker. You said it last week. They're not going to be able to lean on Harrison Butker to go out there and kick a 50-plus yard field goal when this offense stalls out when they get to the 45-yard line. So I think that's certainly a big part of why the Chiefs did not look great this against the Bills. I think the Bills put out a phenomenal defensive plan. I think Josh Allen had a great game, even though he only had one touchdown, one interception. He made the big play at the end of the one passing touchdown. He made the big play at the end of the
That rush was sick. Yeah.
end of the fourth quarter, to seal the deal, 25-yard rushing touchdown or something. The Chiefs are just not a complete team. This offense is not anything that you should be scared of if you have a decent defense. I think it's gotten to the point where like it's more about the Chiefs like getting into the psyche of teams rather than actually going out there and playing football, because the Chiefs have just been good for so long that it's like, oh great, like we got the Chiefs, we got Patrick Mahomes, if we go down 10, like it's not over. And there is a certain extent to that of it being true. Like Mahomes has led 10-point comebacks, but if you're a Buffalo Bills team, in the regular season at least, the Bills have not been scared of them and have won multiple games the past few years, like you rattled off last week. So I just think the Buffalo Bills came out there, put together a really good plan. They did struggle to move the football at times on offense, but it always felt like Josh Allen was there to make the right play.
I just want to highlight a few things too. First, Kansas City's defense is absolutely elite, but having to always put the weight of the world on your defense isn't the key to success and isn't going to be sustainable. So before Chiefs fans start being like, well, our defense this, our defense that, give all the credit in the world to your defense. They're probably one of the best in the NFL. Next, people were blindly betting Patrick Mahomes is an underdog. That's all you heard about all week. Patrick Mahomes is an underdog. Like he doesn't lose by more than 3 points, blah, 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 like this, that, and the third. They went and lost by 9. So the last thing that I also want to get to was it is okay for the media and the announcers to not always be on the Chiefs. And it's to the point where they're like homers. Tony Romo at the end of the game was like, well, I mean, they're not, nobody has ever came back. If there's anybody that can come back from a 2-score lead, like, can anybody do it? Like, is it really over? Is it really over? It's like, brother, the game's over. They're up by 9. They have to go 80 yards to score a touchdown. Like, call it what it is. Like, at some point, be a straight shooter. I get that you like Mahomes, but be a straight shooter in a situation like that. It's annoying.
I'm pretty sure that they said that with like a minute 30 left, and the
Yes.
Chiefs didn't have all 3 of their timeouts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's like you would legitimately need a miracle for that to happen. And with the guys that are on this Chiefs offense and the type of pressure that the Bills were able to get on Mahomes consistently throughout this game, like the odds of Mahomes pulling that off were
slim to none.
Basically 0. Yeah.
0. Yeah. And we watched it play out that way. And this team just does not have the firepower to pull that off. Like, let's just call it what it is. So I just want to see what you thought about that. And I texted the person back. I said, if you think that Mahomes just put on a masterclass, like, I feel bad. And there were a lot of good games on Sunday, a lot of good performances from a lot of people. And if you sat around and watched the Chiefs offense and was like, man, they're balling, like you have another thing coming to you. I just think the rose-colored lens for the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know what is going to have to happen for that, but maybe the Broncos, like if they didn't really pull out that Broncos win, and then they went to the next week and traveled across country and lost by 9 to Buffalo Bills, I think there's a different tune around this team. They obviously got bailed out at the end of that game, but like I said, I think that we're going to watch some things change. I mean, they have back-to-back Carolina and Las Vegas. Let's keep an eye on that. Like, those are 2 games that if you are a Chiefs fan, you're probably expecting to put up over 28 points at the bare minimum. And honestly, let's see if they can win those games. But at this point in the season, I think anything's possible.
I think the rose-colored lenses come from the fact that the Chiefs we saw them last year play the worst they've played in a season since Mahomes has been quarterback, probably.
Yeah.
And they still won a Super Bowl. So I think the reason that media and everybody that watches and talks about the Chiefs, they just automatically get the benefit of the doubt because they've looked worse than they do right now and still figured out a way to win the Super Bowl. But I still think that you can two things can be true at once here, right? Like the Chiefs can get bailed out and have been playing a bad season, but have not been playing great this season and somehow still only have one loss. Like I don't think that everything needs to just always revert back to, oh, the Chiefs, well, they played bad last year. Like if they play bad this year, who cares? They're going to win the Super Bowl. Like if that happens, I'll be shocked. I don't think this team's good enough to win the Super Bowl, but the same thing was said last year. I just think it's a matter of, I just think that we're going to start to see the lack of talent on the offensive side of the ball really come out more this year than last.
If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year, I'll cut my pinky off.
All right.
Okay. So now.
One other thing. Mahomes is tied for the lead in interceptions, which I don't think a single person has talked about that.
And don't come in the comments trying to argue on behalf of Mahomes is getting judged on this scale because he is the best player in the NFL. If you're the best player in the NFL and you're playing like a mid-tier quarterback, it should be talked about. I don't care who your surrounding weapons are. I don't care about this, that, and the third. Like, at some point, he needs to be held accountable. We're holding him accountable. If you don't like that, then click off the fucking video.
If you're putting him in the same conversation as Tom Brady, you need to hold him to a higher standard than how he's been playing these last two seasons, at least in the regular season.
He'll never be Tom Brady. Anyway.
White clouds blowing out when we max 4-5, not the size, but it kick up high line.